טוב ומנעים שבת תחים גם יחד הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת תחים גם יחד הנה מה טוב ומנעים שבת אחים 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 גם יחד.
How wonderful, how good it is for brothers and sisters, for our tribe to come together. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It is nice actually to celebrate those Shabbatot that come after something. And the reason for that is because it takes some practice to show up in the Shabbat after a major holiday in the middle of the week. Yeah, like synagogues have less people when that happens. And those that show up, those that come, they are usually very engaged in the practice of showing up. And that's a muscle. It's a muscle we train. That consistency makes a world of a difference. And that's the meaning and the beauty of praying in a minyan. Have a group of people that you know that you will show up for them, they show up for you. So it is wonderful to pray with this minyan in this Erev Shabbat, the evening of Shabbat after the holiday of Shavuot. We will now turn our Shir to page 122.
And we invite Leah Brunnings to come and light the candles.
You're not alone, Leah.
Got it. Asher קידשנו במצוותיו
Page 130 for the first verses of Psalm 95 and then for Psalm 96. Lechuranenam l'Adonai nariya letzur isheinu nekadma fanav v'todah v'hismirot nari halom shiro l'Adonai shir Hadash shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz shiru l'Adonai varchu shemo Asru miyom leyom Yeshuato Sapru v'goyim kevodo V'chol ha'amim niflaot Elai ki gadol Adonai U'mulal me'od The bottom of page 132, Orzaru ala tzadik, ulishrei lev simcha, simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, rodu lesecher kodsho. A light is shone for the righteous, the source of connection, the path of that light, for the seekers of truth, for the seekers of righteousness. Mizmor Shir Adonai, Shir Hadash, Psalm 98. Shabbat invite us to recognize the wonders, the many niflaot that we experience in our daily lives, and sometimes we take for granted. Sometimes we struggle to notice. We'll now turn our Sidurim to page 134.
Zamru l'Adonai
Adonai Malach, Kirgesu Ahamim. We, at the bottom of page 135 in Hebrew, we say, Romemu Adonai Eloheinu. While singing these songs of Shabbat, reciting these psalms, we try to uplift our spirits, bring ourselves to a place in which we are ready, feel ready to enter Shabbat, the palace on time. We are now on page 136 for Psalm 29.
את עמו בשלום, אדוני לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. יאי 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 לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום, אדוני לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום.
On page 138, Hadash. דודי לקראת כלה, ירה לרה 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 לי, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי
לקראת כלה, ירה לרה 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 לי, פני שבת נקבלה.
שמור וסחור ודיבורי אחד ישמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת והליטי לי
לילה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה. יאללה לה 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 לה, לפני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה. יאללה לה 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 לה, לפני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת, לכו ונלחם, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחץ שבתחילה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה. יאללה לה 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 לה, לפני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה. יאללה לה 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 לה, לפני שבת נקבלה.
מקדש מלך, עיר מלוכה, קומי צא מתוך אף אחד. רב לך שבט במקווך, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה.
לך דודי, לקראת כלה. יאללה לה 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 לה, לפני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה. יאללה לה 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 לה, לפני שבת נקבלה.
נהרי נפר גומי, אישי בקני תפארתך עמי. על יד בן ישי ביתך לחמי, קורבה אל נפשי גאתה לי לי.
לך דודי, לקראת כלה. יאללה לה 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 לה, לפני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה. יאללה לה 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 לה, לפני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי בהורג קומי הורי. הורי הורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני, עלייך נגלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה. יאללה לה 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 לה, לפני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה. יאללה לה 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 לה, לפני שבת נקבלה.
לי לי היי לי לי לי, לך דודי היי לי לי לי. היי לי לי לי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תיכלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי. בך יחסו עניי עמי, ונבנית היללתי לה. לי לי לי
יאללה לה לה, לך דודי, יאללה לה לה, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. והיו למשיסה שוסי, ורחקו קומב עלייך. יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמשוש חתן על כלה. יאללה לה לה, יאללה לה לה, לך דודי, יאללה לה לה, יאללה לה לה, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. ימין נוסמכותי פרותי, את אדוני תריתי. all ידיש בן פרצי, ונשמחה ונגיד יאללה לה לה, יאללה לה לה, לך דודי, יאללה לה לה, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
אוי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני העם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לי 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 לי, Hay lay 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 lecha dodi. Hay lay lay lay. Hay lay 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 likrat kala. Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hay lay lay lay. Hay lay lay lay
lecha dodi. Hay lay lay lay. Hay lay 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 likrat kala. Pnei Shabbat nekabela.
And while we are standing, we'll take a moment to say good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom to each other. We're in California, most people hug here, so. We invite you to turn your Sidurim to page 140. Do not, but he will come soon. I promise. So on page 140, the words of so you see the third line. You maybe see the להודות לאדוני טוב להודות לאדוני ולשמר בשמך עליון טוב להודות לאדוני. If this is your first time hearing this is as hard as it gets. Third line. Well, it gets a bit harder, but you can enter believing that this is the hardest it gets, and then we'll share with you more. And for those that have sung it, you know it's easy. So, Tov leodot l'Adonai, Tov leodot l'Adonai, ולזמר לשמך עליון טוב להודות לאדוני היי אוי להגיד בבוקר חסדך אוי להגיד בבוקר חסדך באמונתך בלילות באמונתך בלילות טוב להודות לאדוני לילה אוי להגיד בבוקר חסדך להגיד בבוקר חסדך באמונתך בלילות באמונתך בלילות טוב להודות לאדוני לילה אוי להגיד בבוקר חסדך אוי להגיד בבוקר חסדך באמונתך בלילות באמונתך בלילות טוב להודות לאדוני. And with that sense of gratitude is that we turn our Sidurim now to page 144 for Chetzi Kaddish as we will transition into Ma'ariv Shel Shabbat.
יתקרב ויתקדש שמי רבה, אמן. בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל יתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן.
We now turn our theorem to page 146 for Baruch. Please rise. Baruch is the moment in which we actually acknowledge that we have a minyan. You cannot recite Baruch if you don't have a minyan. Sometimes we struggle to decide who counts and who doesn't. And when we come together in prayer, we are reminded that we don't get to choose. That the minyan are 10 random people that show up for the same reason, and each one of them counts. So before we go to Shema, before we say that God is one, the blessing for the community, the blessing that the community recites together, reminds us that the diversity of that community, the diversity of this room, is the most beautiful picture of the unity of God. Baruch hu et Adonai, Let's read together in English on page 148. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the times, and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzbaot is your name, ever-living God. May you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings some evening. Baruch Ata Adonai. Mariv Aravi. Ahavat Olam, you offer your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. As we get closer to Shema, we take a moment to think about the source, the foundation of everlasting love. We think about what makes each of us feel loved, feel connected with our souls. Remember to close your eyes for a moment and to think of that source of everlasting love. And once you have picture that presence. Let the presence become light. And let that light surround you, embrace you. As if it was a prayer shawl, a talit. Wear that talit of light, and let that light occupy your heart with each breath you take. Shabbat, try not to carry, so as we exhale, as you breathe out, I invite you to think about the things that don't belong within your heart. And as we breathe out, we let them go, making space in our hearts to be filled with love, light. I invite you to take one more deep breath. As we say, באהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. Dear God, please never remove your love from us. ברוך אתה, אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. Blessed are you, Adonai, who loves your people, Israel. Once again, one last deep breath as we become one. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם נאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
אמת, אדוני Adonai Elohechem Emet. We'll continue with the silent reading over page 156. Moshe ומרים ובני ישראל לכנו שילה וזין חרבה ואמרו כולם. When your children witness your presence, they praise your name in gratitude and they accepted your sovereignty. Moshe, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously. Page 158. מי כמוך ואלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נור התהילות אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בנך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, צהלי אנו בעמנו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם בעת. בנאמר כפת אדוני את יעקב, וגאלוג מיחסה ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני.
ברוך וברוך שמו.
קהל ישראל. With that sense of redemption that we try to walk our path toward peace, we'll use the words in the handout for one day, and then we will continue with the words of Ashkeveinu. Sometimes I lay under the moon and say, God, I'm breathing, and I pray, don't take me soon, because I'm here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds,
I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life
I've been waiting for,
I've been praying for my people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play.
One day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day.
Ashkeveinu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, ve'hamidenu shomreinu leHayim. Ashkeveinu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, ve'hamidenu shomreinu leHayim. Ushmor zetenu, uvoenu, lechaim u'shalom, me'ata ve'ad olam. Ashkeveinu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, ve'hamidenu shomreinu leHayim. Ashkeveinu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, ve'hamidenu shomreinu leHayim.
ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem, Ir Kodechecha, our holy city, the city of Shalom. And we say, Amen. שמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. It is a covenant among generations, for each generation to find their way, their path. For Shabbat, a reminder that we are supposed to celebrate time, that we carry souls, and that those souls are sacred. וביום השביעי, and on the seventh day, Shabbat receive its own soul. Shabbat by Nafash. And hopefully, by then, we also recognize that we have one as well. We're on page 164. We want to enter Tfilat Amidah. Please rise as we turn toward Jerusalem.
I don't
ולרצון אמרפי, בגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני, צורי וגואלי, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. We are at the bottom of page 180. Let's read together. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. At this point of our service, our prayer together, we take a moment to acknowledge those that are dealing with illness. We think of those dealing with illness in their bodies, in their souls. We think of those carrying addictions, those facing grief. If there is a name that you'd like to share in this Erev Shabbat, we invite you to do so as we go around the room. Thank you.
Scott Van Gundy, Dave Stahl, Margaret and Larry McGuan, Carol Rosenberg, Batya Peters, Rich DeBridger, Sandra Goldberger, Elise Musin, Mira Engel, Victoria Spiller, Debbie Pink, Mike Friedman, Berdine Coven, Lou Alexander, Geis Levy, Judy Sutton, Ellen Kashik, Bernice Paris, Bernard Zaldau, Branch Kotowski, Howard Beckerman, Ivor Barber, Don Barnett, Orla Colgan.
Wish to all of them, to all of you, to all of us, רפואה שלמה והחלמה מהירה, a complete recovery, and soon to be well-being. And we say, Amen.
Amen.
Erev Tov, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
You know, and I was reminded of this story, by the way, by Rabbi Dahlia Marks, who was just here, and who was my teacher in the first year of HUC, where I was placed into the third highest Hebrew class, despite having no business being there. And I got into that class by memorizing a short list of words, which I just figured I'll figure it out. They included things like mirpeset, that's like a deck or a porch. What else was there? Mutash, which is like exhausted. Nazir, which means a monk. And the test ended up being write a postcard to your mother explaining why you haven't called or emailed. And I explained to her that I'd become a monk and I was sitting on the deck. And they said, wow, this guy's really creative. You should be in third level Hebrew. That came up again today. I was thinking about the Nazir because, maybe not the... That came up again today because we're in Parshat Naso. And in this Parsha this week, we discuss one of the most interesting bits of Torah, and by that, I mean, it's all interesting. But there's one of the interesting parts, right? It's about the Nazirite vows, the Nazir, where the modern Hebrew word Nazir comes from. And this Parsha covers a few things that I want to just point out to you, right? First we talk about the Tameh, right? Someone who has this skin disease or a personal illness that ritually makes them impure, and they need to leave the camp, right? And they separate themselves until they are ready to return, and until they are in a state of tahor, like a purity. The priest checks that. Then we talk about the hoteh, the person who has caused harm to those in the community by through their actions or dishonesty, and then swears falsely to God about that. And they have messed up their social relationships, their relationship with God at the exact same time, and they have to undergo this process of restitution. Next we have the sota, right? The trial of the bitter waters with a private relationship where someone accuses their spouse of adultery, and there's this elaborate public ritual that only again can they sort of rejoin their relationship only after the priest has done this ritual. And then lastly, we have the Nazir, right? Someone who withdraws from the community to become completely devoted to God, and they say the rules of the Nazir are no wine, no cutting hair. Anyone else? No ritual impurity. You can't come in contact with the dead specifically, which leads you to a very interesting situation in which you can't go to a party and you can't go to a funeral, right? And that was a good bit of your social experience back then, so you really were quite isolated, right? And if it weren't quite so obvious that you were doing that, you have a very long, unkempt mane to do so. So only when the Nazir brings this offering can they rejoin society. All of these have a theme in common, right? And they're about being outside of the community and coming back in. But I wanted to focus on the Nazir, not just because I remembered my gaming the test when Rabbi Marks was here, but also because it talks about a vow that's become increasingly sort of maybe relevant or maybe passé. But by the way, I wanted to actually ask about this. Has anyone here witnessed a vow in the past 2 decades? Have you personally seen a vow happen? A marriage vow. Anything else? Vows are out, right? Can we say they're canceled? I don't really think they're canceled, but they're out. And one of the reasons why I think this is because a vow is only really good publicly when you have a slower rate of social change, right? A vow is something static. There's something fixed about it that doesn't quite work. And when who wants to do that, to lock yourself in when you're unresponsive to the needs of your future self or the world around you? And if that weren't even the case, who would take you seriously? The social fabric has eroded and changed, and new information, things come out constantly to bury that. Can you truly say if someone around you breaks a vow that they'll have to suffer any consequences for it? Maybe save the marriage vow. It's a good example. The social consequences part maybe because we have, from a previously limited space of friendships, we're online. We have an infinite space of friendships. We have an infinite space of connections. And if you break a vow, there's always a new friend out there. There's always someone who didn't know about the vow. A way that we never could have imagined 30 years ago, 40 years ago, probably certainly not 2,000 years ago. But I couldn't help but be struck as I read this week's Parsha and the surrounding commentary from the Talmud that there's something really special about the Nazirite vow, right? A Nazirite vow isn't simply something I say publicly. It's something I do unto myself. And I do it to remove myself from society. In the case of Sota, the one who swears falsely by God, the one who has an illness, right? Society says you must go out. But in the Nazirite vow, I go out. There's a further layer, right? A Nazirite vow has a few structures in it that help it help it stay useful. One is that it's time limited, right? You might say, I'll be a Nazirite for 30 days or a year or however long you need to step out of society. And the second is that the rabbinic Jewish world has created a solution to vows between you and God, which might be too long or unwieldy. And that solution is, does anyone know? Rabbi knows. Kol Nidre, right? The formulaic recitation, annulling vows, which we hear beautifully chanted on Yom Kippur, the eve of. I want to actually, on a side note, Kol Nidre was not very popular among the rabbis for a long time. And one of the early writers of Sidurim, Amram Gaon, famously called it Minhag Shtut, which I can only translate as a stupid custom. And you just say, that's a stupid custom. And the biggest rabbi said that. And so while I'm not optimistic about vows in the fabric of our society today, I want to really think about what our tradition might say. There's a real useful thing here, because at the end of the day, saying to ourselves clearly, let's step out of society, is really quite a powerful thing. And even as I see vows more publicly in other areas being weakened and eroded, I see a trend of the Nazirite vow going quite viral in some places. It's all over. I'll give you some examples, right? Flip phones and not smartphones. What better way to be disconnected from this world? People who go news-free. Some of my friends who were on dating apps have described their experience, and they call it being boy sober, right? As they step off the apps and refuse to date. Y'all have heard of this one? Right? And my personal favorite, the do not disturb email response I got from someone which says, I check email on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. And that's it. I love it, right? But again. Right. No, it's not me, I promise. I'm accessible to y'all. But what I wanted to offer is that suddenly, even as the greater vow has eroded in the public world, the personal vow, the vow of the Nazirite, the vow to say, I have to take a step back from society for my own well-being, is encountering a resurgence like never before. And while I'm not going to encourage us all to make vows and offer a sin offering, Nazirite vows are particularly tricky because there's no temple anymore to offer the sin offering, so you're really stuck with them when you do it. But I want to encourage all of us to think about what vows might we take, not for the sense of public whatever, but the sense of like a tool of personal improvement, a tool of saying, not like a New Year's resolution, right, where we have the best of intentions and the vaguest of plans, but to say we really want to step back from something, to let it go, and do so hopefully for a better, healthier self, which might just be a little more consecrated to God. Food for thought. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you for the wisdom. We will now turn our Sidurim to page 586 for Leinu Leshabeach. We'll invite all the kids that are around to join Rabbi Michael in opening the ark. Hopefully, yes, and there are some lollipops that you might get after doing that. Please rise as we open the ark. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כאויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל העמונם, ואנחנו קוראים
ומשתחווים ומועדים
לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. Middle of page 590, כתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. You may be seated.
Don't forget the. Okay.
At this point of our service, we take a moment to acknowledge mourners among our community. First and foremost, our congregation offers its condolences to Debbie Heisman on the death of her uncle, William Mazur. We will now acknowledge those that have a yahrzeit this week, those who have passed by this time of the year in years past: Anita Weiss, Douglas Stad, where's Shell? Brother of Shell Robinstein, George Gilbert, John Rose, husband of Janet Rose, Mary Kuhn, mother of Linda Kuhn, Mark Berkowitz, brother of Fred Berkowitz, Michael Pleiner, husband of Karen Pleiner and father of Jennifer Pleiner, Paul Kernoff, father of Fran Franklin, Paul Schatz, father of Linda Levinson, Richard Timmins, father of Shelley Timmins, Sam Ehrlich, friend of Gail Long, William Rose, brother-in-law of Janet Rose. We'll now invite those that are during the first 7 days of morning Shiva to please rise, and so those that are during the first 30 days of mourning, Shloshim. And if you are during the cycle of the first year, please rise. In the cycle of the year. David, say your name again.
My father, Norm Bickleman. David Sherman.
My parents both died June 10, 11 years apart, and my uncle William Mazur died June 10th. They had the funeral in Chicago today.
May his memory be a blessing. Thank you. Now, if you have a yahrzeit this week, please rise and share with us who you're remembering. Now you can support our fellows while standing or sitting, joining us with your voices or your hearts for Kaddish Avelim, Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. בעלמא דברה חילותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, באמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר, ויתרומם, ויתנשא. ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה, בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דע אמירם בעלמה, באמרו אמן. יאש למה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, באמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, באמרו אמן. May the memories of your dear ones be always a blessing in your life. יהיה זכרם ברוך. You may be seated.
My pleasure to invite up Julie Ogawa to share some announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. Let's see. Here we go. Saturday, June 15th at 9 o'clock, Shabbat Cafe in the foyer. 9:30, Torah study, followed by 10:30 Shabbat service. Tomorrow will be a board installation service and a Kiddush lunch to follow. This Tuesday, the 18th at 7:30, the Beit Midrash second class will be meeting. It's the summer learning class with Rabbi Michael. And these sessions focus on learning to decode the Mishnah, as well as build your Jewish literacy framework through the historic lens of the Jewish story. You can come anytime. You don't have to come for the entire series, but I recommend that you do so if you can. Knowledge of Hebrew letters and vowel markings are a prerequisite, and please show up and give it a try. Wednesday, June 19th, the office will be closed in observance of Juneteenth. And next week, Sunday, June 23rd, at 4 p.m. will be a concert by our own Shir Hadash volunteer choir as they present songs about Israel from composers such as Max Janowski, Michael Isaacson, and Naomi Shermer. Following the concert, enjoy a reception sponsored by Gail Long. Registration is open. Please RSVP soon so we can plan accordingly. And on Saturday, June 29th at 10:30, join us for our regular Shabbat service in the morning, and we will have an ofrot for our Shipra Aaron Dine and her fiancé, Dr. Mary Tarosi, blessing their upcoming wedding. Rabbi Melanie Aaron and Michael Dine invite the whole community to celebrate and join the Kiddush lunch following the service. Please RSVP online so we can plan accordingly. I like to come up with a haiku when I do announcements. I really had a hard time this time, so here we go. Together on this Shabbat after Shavuot. Any cheesecake left? Shabbat Shalom.
That's an announcement in a very high level. We will now invite you to turn your Sidurim to page 122 as we are going to recite the Kiddush of Yom Shabbat, of Sabbath. We recite the Kiddush starts with a part from the story of the creation of the world. We are reminded that the entire creation concludes in creating the space for a day of rest, for Shabbat. Please rise. ויערב ויבוקר יום השישי, ויחול השמיים והארץ בכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי, מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי, מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי חבריי וחברותיי,
לחיים.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ברצה בנו, בשבת קודשו, באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ברתנו קידשת עם כל העמים, בשבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. בחיים.
לחיים.
while we are standing, we'll take a moment to share blessings with each other. We invite you to stand next to your family, your chosen family, your children, your friends. If you are on your own, make eye contact with someone. Or think about someone. We believe that blessings go above and beyond the walls of the rooms that hold us together. So we say to everybody, Yasimchem Elohim כפרעים וכמנשה, Yasimchen Elohim כשרה רבקה רחל ולאה. May God inspire you to be like the loving parents of the house of Israel. And we say to everyone, to all of us, Yavrechem Adonai beish merechem. May God bless you and protect you. Yair Adonai panav elechem bechunekem. May God's light shine upon you and may God be gracious to you. Isa Adonai panav elechem. May God turn toward you. And in this Torah portion of Parashat Naso, in which we remember that counting sometimes is lifting up. Isa Adonai Naso. It's the same word. May you feel counted. May you know that you count. May you know that you matter. May you find healthy spaces when you need to step out from the society. And may you choose for how long and how to do that. And may you find health and peace within your hearts as that's God's most beautiful gift, the gift of Shalom. וישם לכם, וישם לך, וישם לכם. שלום. אדוני עוש לעמיו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמיו בשלום. שבת שלום.
Shabbat
שלום
shalom.
מבורך, everybody. Shabbos. יאללה, לילה, לילה.
La 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 la